Hi everyone! Today we'll be painting this Festive Snowman. The colors and everything that we need is down below, but just know that we'll be using a fan brush today. We're going to start with a big scoop of white, dip our brush in a little bit of blue, a little bit of black, mix them together, and then we're going to be adding just a tiny hint of red, and then we're going to add a little extra blue into there and mix it all together. We want a nice big pile of it. We're going to go ahead and mark our center point, so halfway mark, and we're going to do a little bit below that. And then another center point, we're going to go a little bit past that. Then we're going to fill this shape in. It's going to be nice and round. This is going to be the bottom half of our snowman. Then we're going to come up and leave a little bit of space at the top. And we're going to go ahead and do a nice little round circle. Just know that part of our circle is cut off, but we're going to fill all of that in. Then we're going to clean our brush and get some white. And our paint is still wet, so it's going to kind of mix together, which is what we want. We're going to come on this side, and we're going to go ahead and on the right side, give him a nice bright cheek. And then kind of fill in most of the circle. We still want to leave some of the original color at the edges. But go ahead and just let it blend in. It's very wet, so it's going to blend with that white nicely. We're going to do the same thing at the bottom, coming on the right side, adding the white. And then we're just going to gently kind of blend into the color that's there. Then we're going to clean our brush, and we're going to go very softly along the edges. We might add a little extra white if it blends in a little too much, but we're going to come back later and add a highlight, so don't worry too much about it. But go ahead and just kind of mix very gently that color in. All right, then we're going to come over here. We're going to make our horizon line. We're, again, using that dark blue color. We're going to go ahead and fill that in. And then we're going to make a nice golden yellow. It's going to be white with yellow and a little bit of brown, just a tiny bit. We're going to come over here and we're going to put a tiny short line close to the bottom and then a little bit longer line close to the top, and we're going to connect them with a slanty line. Then we're going to go ahead and fill that in. That's going to be our lamp. Right on top of that color, we're going to be adding green and black together, and that's going to be our tree. And we're going to make a kind of a slanty line. It's going to overlap a little bit where that lantern's going to be, and we're using our fan brush. We're just going to kind of feather out. We're kind of touching and swiping away from the canvas, and that's going to give us our feathered look. And we're going to go ahead and fill that in. We don't have to worry too much about the feathering technique in the middle of it because we're going to come back with some snow on our tree, and that'll give us that effect. But at the edges, we definitely want to work on that feathering. And if you made your lantern a little too tall, go ahead and cover some of that up. I made mine a bit too tall. Then we're going to go back, and our snowman should be mostly dry by now. We're going to use white with the big brush, and we're going to go ahead and put it along the edges. Okay, and then we're going to take a clean paper towel, and we're going to wipe some of it off. So along the edge that is touching the blue part, we're going to go ahead and soften that. So we're kind of smearing it just a little bit. You can even use your hands if you want. Then we're going to go ahead and get some red and a little bit of black, or we're just putting it right on top of the color we had before. We might add some extra white if that color is kind of gone, or we can just mix in with whatever's left of the snowman color. Go ahead and do a line along the top. It's going to be relatively close to the top, and then we're going to curve it just a little bit. Then we're going to do a little bit of a slanty line going up, and that's going to be our hat. The hat should go a little bit outside of his head so it doesn't look too snug. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to get a darker color because we're going to do the little tail end of it, but first put a shadow along the left side. And I'm just kind of wiping some of the paint off so it kind of mixes in a little bit softer edge. And it's about halfway through. Then I'm switching to my smaller brush. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make the little tail end. I'm kind of just copying the line, and then I'm pulling away with a little curved tail end away from his face. And it's kind of like a little pointy triangle, a little squiggly, weird looking triangle. Okay, once I got that, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the lighter color. And I'm going to do that along the edge that's closest to the lantern. And just kind of brush till it mixes a little bit together along those edges. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add some blue and a little bit of black and some white, and basically just like our beginning color, but a little bit darker, and that's going to be our sky color. I used the big brush to mix it just so I have a lot, and then I switched to the smaller brush, the medium-sized brush actually, and then I'm just going to kind of fill in the white that's left in the canvas. It also helps me if I want to kind of adjust my tree, if the tree got a little bit too big or something, or if it got a little too small, I'm going to come back with that same color in the fan brush and just kind of even up the edges if I want to. Helps me kind of shape my tree a bit. Okay, I'm going to go back to that color, and we got to get his scarf in there. So I want two lines that kind of slant down in the middle, and then a nice little bump. That's going to be where the scarf kind of overlaps and it's tied together. Then I'm going to make it come down, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't want it perfectly straight. You want it a little bit curved, a little bit slanted, maybe another little one tucked underneath. I'm going to come over here where his head and his body connect, and I'm going to do a little curved line. I'm not going to let that point where they connect stay there. Next, I'm going to be adding a little bit darker colors. Remember, we had those different colors for the hat, and we're going to add the darker color along those edges that are furthest away from the lantern, and then we're going to go ahead and come back to the original color, fill in most of the rest of the shapes, and then we're going to add some white, and just whatever edges of the scarf are closest to the lantern, we're going to go ahead and add that lightest color. Okay, and we're going to come back up to the hat and do the same thing up there, because we had two colors, but we didn't have that third color. We're just getting a little bit of that lighter color right along the edge, almost like a line, and I might smear it just a little bit with my fingers there. Next, we're taking that same color we put in the background for the sky, and we're just kind of putting it along the edges. We want to put a tiny bit above the scarf, but most of it we want to put below the scarf and in between the scarf pieces. So in between these little two pieces here, and then along this left side, we're going to kind of fill it all in with that kind of sky color that we made before, because it is a night scene. And we're going to come under his hat just a little bit as well. Then I'm going to mix some white and a little bit of blue just to brighten up the color just a little bit. And then I'm going to come a little bit below that, just kind of let the shadow kind of tilt down just a little bit. I'm going to be adding that under the hat, and I'm going to come where the scarf is as well, but mostly I'm going to come under the hat and just a little bit where the head and the body connect, so that part of the scarf, not necessarily over to the left side. Okay, and I'm going to try to connect these two shadowy points, and I'm just going to keep adding more white and a little bit more blue. Mostly the white, though, just if you need to brighten it a little bit. And I always like to take my finger, just kind of rub it a little bit. I want to make sure my tree is really dry at this point, and I'm going to be adding some snow. Same colors we've been using, so kind of that sky color with a little extra white mixed in. I'm going to fill it in, just like a little curve at the top and wiggly at the bottom. Then I'm going to switch to black, and I'm going to kind of outline the top and the bottom of the lantern. I'm going to give it a little stick going all the way down. And this is going to go right to the edge of the painting, and you decide kind of how thick you want that little pole to be. And then we're going to put one little line, a slanted line, kind of copying the edge of it right down here. And you decide how thick you want that to be. Next, we're going to be cleaning our fan brush really well and getting some white. And we're just going to kind of swoosh back and forth and get some snow in there. Remember, our ground wasn't white. It had some of that bluish color going on. So we're just going to swish a little bit of that blue in there. Then we're going to clean our brush and get some more white. Again, make sure the tree is very dry, and we're just working right on top of the tree, just kind of swiping and trying to get a little bit of that feathering effect that we get with our fan brushes. And we can do a little bit of dabbing here and there, and we're just going to kind of work our way all the way up. Try to make a little bit of a row, but not really. Don't make it even Steven. We don't want it to look like stripes. Then I'm going to add a little highlight touch at the top where the lantern is. Okay, and then I'm going to use some white here, and I apologize, but this part got cut off a little bit in the video, but after we put the white for this part, we're going to be adding some yellows, and it's going to be kind of the similar yellow that we had before, but let's work on the nose first. So for the nose, we just mixed some yellow with a little bit of white, little bit of red, and a little bit of brown, and we just kind of mixed it all together and made a little circle. You decide how big you want it to be. Then we clean our brush again and do a nice big circle for our snowman's hat. And we want to feather it out, so we're just taking our brush and kind of swiping a little bit down, a little bit over. Okay, and then we'll kind of come back to the same. We're going to use some of that sky color again. I hope you still have some left. If not, try to mix some more. And then along the left side, so away from our lantern, we're going to go ahead and put some of that bluish color in there. And we're just going to softly touch, and we'll put some of the darker part right at the edge. And we're just going to mix it in, kind of smear it with our finger if we can. Okay, then we're going to put some eyes in there. I always start with just a dot, and then I just kind of get bigger and bigger with my brush. I like to use the medium-sized brush or the smallest brush if I want more control. I like a big eye so he looks nice and cute. And then same thing with these little dots. I'm just going to make some dots and try to make a little smile for him. It's okay if it looks a little goofy. Snowmen are kind of goofy looking. And go ahead again, make it a little bigger. And then clean off my brush, and I'm just going to mix in whatever was left, whatever black was left in there, and a little bit of brown. And I'm going to come over here to the snowman's nose again. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to kind of touch along that edge, and then come in the middle just a little bit, almost like creating a triangle along that left side. Then I'm going to do the same thing with white. I'm just going to touch the middle, and then I'm going to come along the right side, and I'm going to touch. I can smear it with my finger if I want, or just leave it kind of this funny little shape. Then I'm going to add some highlights to the coal, anything little curved line closest to the lantern. And again, this is the part that the video kind of cut out. I mix a nice warm yellow, kind of like the lantern color, with the white and the yellow, the tiny bit of brown. And anywhere the lightest purpley color for the hat is, that's where I'm going to put the lightest color. Then the middle color, I'm going to mix a little extra brown, a tiny bit of black in there. It's going to be kind of a goldish color. Then I'm going to put it everywhere that's there. And then add a little bit more brown, a little bit more black. And anywhere there's that shadowy color, I'm going to be putting it there. Okay, we're going to use the same color we used for the tree. We're going to make a big circle, and then we're going to add some leaves, and we're just kind of little curved lines, and they're going to be pointing everywhere. So some pointing to the edge, some pointing up, some pointing over, some of them bigger than the other. I'll add a little extra black and a little extra green and kind of smear a little bit of that in the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and add some white. And I'm going to use the smallest brush, and I'm just going to highlight around each of those leaves. I'm painting right on top of it, so it'll kind of mix together, and I'll come back and do that highlight again. Okay, then I want to make sure that's really dry, so dry it off really good. Get some red and some white, and let a little bit of the black mix in so it's a little bit purpley. Give yourself a few, you can do 3 or 4 little circles in the middle to be the berries, and I'm adding a little extra red and a little extra white, making a little bit of a highlight along the side that the lantern is, and again, some more white, and then I'm going to do a little curved line again. Okay, and then just to top it off, I'm going to outline the leaves one more time once the green is dried a little bit more, just to kind of highlight it. And yeah, put that little decoration in his hat. And there you go, our festive snowman.